The 1920s were a sort of renaissance for the social life of the average American. There were flappers, who were emancipated young women who wore short, bright colored dresses, skin-toned stockings, and cut their hair in boyish bobs and dyed it jet black. They even went to events without chaperones, which was unheard of at this time. Also at this time, birth control was introduced, which was very controversial because many people believed that women should not have a choice, they should just have the baby. Next, mass media shaped the mass culture. There were magazines such as Reader's Digest and the Time magazines. They gave more coverage for large cities, and the radio, which connected the whole country and enabled people to hear mass news as it happened. Lastly, there was extra money, which meant leisure activities such as sports, and there were many sports stars such as Babe Ruth, who was a baseball player, Gertrude Ederle, who was the first woman to swim the English Channel, and Helen Willis, who was a pro tennis star. And there were new movies, such as The Jazz Singer, which was released, and it was the first major movie with sound. Silent movies were already a national pastime, but with this new sound movie, the Walt Disney Steamboat Willie was also released, and it was the first animated movie with sound. The introduction of sound led millions to attend every week talkies.
After World War I, Palmer raids have been put into effect in the United States to drive out and arrest undercover communist agents, otherwise known as Reds. On January 3rd, the New York Times reported that 650 people that were accused of being undercover communist agents were arrested. The League of Nations held their first official council in Paris, France. President Wilson formally convoked the council in accordance with the League provision for the summoning of the First Assembly by the President of the United States. This is the known last official participation by the United States in the entire history of the League of Nations. The 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was put into effect to prohibit the production, selling, possession, and consumption of alcoholic beverages. Otherwise known as Prohibition, this act was repealed in 1933 and was the most flouted law in history.
There were many changes to the American economy during the 20s. Beginning in the 20s, the Coca-Cola Company began to advertise as Santa Claus. This is an example of the advertising boom that erupted during this time. Companies were required to convince the public that they needed the product, and advertising was a simple way of just doing that. They came up with creative slogans and persuasive messages in order to sell the product. Assembly lines tremendously increased production of goods in the 20s. It gave workers small tasks and made it easier to build a product in a short amount of time. This helped surge the economy forward and turn America into a powerhouse. Henry Ford used the assembly line to perfect his Model T, a mass-produced car that was cheap enough for millions to purchase. This is an incredible advancement in the 20s, as more and more people were able to buy their own car.